Perception, Prejudice, and Bias. Thursday, May 14, 2020. 8:26 p.m.
Perception, Prejudice, and Bias. Attribution theory, basic covariation. Explain the behavior of other people by breaking down our understanding/explanation of their behaviors to factors about them, and factors related to their environment/surroundings. Internal, dispositional attribution, about them. External, situational attribution, environment. When we consider our own behaviors, we are more likely to blame our behavior on external factors. This is called attribution theory, explaining behaviors around us. Consider our own behaviors, we are more likely to blame our behavior on external factors. Optimism bias is belief bad things happen to others, but not to us. Covariation model, 3 Qs of Kelly's covariation model. Consistency, time. Distinctiveness, situation. Consensus, people. X. Take flaky friend, friend forever cancels. Consistent behavior over time. High level of consistent behavior over time, we are more likely related to them as opposed to situation. When consistency is high equals internal factors. X very nice friend Jim, but one day he gets so mad at the pizza place. Out of character and distinctive. So much more likely to be related to the environment. Distinctiveness equals situational. Third factor in covariation model, group lateness. If you arrive late at meeting, but if 20 other people are late too, high degree of consensus. When a lot of people demonstrate same behavior, we are more likely to attribute behavior to situational cause. Attribution theory, attribution error, and culture. We look at behavior as coming from person's internal attributes, and as being fueled by situation/external factors. If in middle, we are a neutral judge and see a combination as both. But often when we look at behavior of others, we're more likely to attribute their behavior to internal factors instead of considering complex external factors. We term this the fundamental attribution error. Problematic when looking at complex patients, we under-recognize the situational and social problems, and healthcare barriers they can have, blaming them for their own problems. Actor-observer bias, we are victims of circumstance, but others are willful actors. Actor. Observer. There's also a cultural component. The fundamental attribution error occurs more in individualistic societies, NA and Europe, collectivist, Africa and Asia. Cultures have different ways they explain success and failure. In individualistic cultures, Western, success is attributed to internal and failure to external. In collectivist cultures, Eastern, success is attributed to external and failure to external, favor situational attributions when situational factors are emphasized. Self-serving bias, preserving our self-esteem, more common in individualistic cultures. If we succeed, it's due to our internal qualities, but if we fail, no hit on self-esteem, because likely to do with things outside of our control. Stereotypes, stereotype threat, and self-fulfilling prophecies. Stereotyping is attributing a certain thought/cognition to a group of individuals, and overgeneralizing cognitive action. Can involve race, gender, culture, religion, shoe size. Disadvantages, it's inaccurate. Advantages, allows us to rapidly assess large amounts of social data. Stereotype threat, self-fulfilling fear that one will be evaluated based on a negative stereotype. X blue and red students both perform equally. Next time, implement negative stereotype about blue students perform worse. What stereotype threat is? Exposure to a negative stereotype surrounding a task can actually cause decrease in the performance of an individual. It threatens performance. Self-fulfilling prophecy, stereotypes can lead to behaviors that affirm the original stereotypes. City dwellers are rude, cognition, stereotyping, I don't like them, affective component, prejudice, I will avoid them, behavioral component, discrimination. They think I'm rude, cognition, they may not like me, affective, they avoid me, behavioral, city dwellers are rude. Continuous circle that feedbacks on itself. Emotion and cognition in prejudice. All attitudes have three components: affect, behavioral, and cognition. At the core of prejudice is often fear of frustration. Scapegoats are a group of people towards whom the aggression is directed, ex-Jews during World War II. There are types of personality more subject to prejudice: the authoritarian personality. They're obedient to superiors, but don't have much sympathy for those they deem inferior to themselves, oppressive. And rigid thinkers, inflexible with their viewpoints. They use prejudice to protect their ego and avoid confronting aspects of themselves because they're always focused on others. Personality type is hard to change. Frustration-aggression hypothesis: not personality-based, but more emotional. Someone getting frustrated can lead to prejudice. When someone's frustrated, frustrations turn to aggressive impulses and direct that towards the employer. But you may lose your job, so you keep bottling up the aggression and rechannel it somewhere else. Often towards minorities. Display aggression towards other people: scapegoating. Often seen in times of economic hardship. Hypothesis of relative deprivation: upsurge in prejudice when people are deprived of something they feel entitled to. Leads to collective unrest: upsurge in prejudice and discrimination. Prejudice and discrimination based on race, ethnicity, power, social class, and prestige. Prejudice and discrimination usually talked about in relation to racial and ethnic groups. Physical characteristics with social significance: some have more meanings than others. Skin color but not eye color. Attached meaning to skin color. Ethnicity: Puerto Rican, Irish, Japanese. Also include groups like Jews, defined more by cultural practices than country of origin. Can also be based on power, social class, or prestige. Power: political power, economic, unfair hiring policies to minorities, personal, laws can limit where someone lives etc. Social class: status is relative, often sets stage for prejudice. People on top maintain differences between themselves and lower class. The just world phenomenon contributes to prejudice. Prestige: often based on occupation. Stigma: social and self. Extreme disapproval/discrediting of individual by society. Two forms: social stigma and self-stigma. Social stigma can be fueled or associated with several other key concepts: stereotypes, prejudices, discrimination. Relationship between stigma and these is unclear. Stigma against mental health is big problem. Stereotype is mentally ill or violent. Cognition: I become scared of mentally ill. Affect, prejudice, so may not want to live with them or hire them. Behavior, discrimination. Self-stigma is individual can internalize all the negative stereotypes, prejudices, and discriminatory experiences they've had, and may feel rejected by society. Someone who has HIV/AIDS and feels the stigma may go into denial that they have the condition, experiences hits from self-esteem, and suffer from depression, and display behaviors that isolate themselves from society. Social circles. First equals self. Second equals family. Third equals society. Fourth equals media. Bidirectional relationships between all these groups. Media is major source of stigma because can depict conditions as being dangerous, etc. Social media is also huge component. Society interactions between self and society like education/employment/healthcare and stigmatizing views can affect individual to get a job, healthcare, etc. Use of legislation and anti-discrimination laws. Family can be shunned by society or shun individual themselves. Isolate the individual and keep as secret within family. May be detrimental to personal/intimate relationships, and interventions like education/therapy are important. Self can lead to avoidance, denial of condition, suffering of mental health conditions, and no longer participating in society. Useful interventions include educating, access to support groups/resources. Social perception primacy and recency bias. First impressions are 1. Long, lasts a long time. 2. Strong, tough to overcome, and 3. Built up, put extra emphasis on info that helps reinforce first impression, and not info that doesn't. Called the primacy bias, assessor selection is made based on information presented earlier in the process. Your most recent actions are also very important, and people place a lot of emphasis on your recent actions/performances, more than once before the recency bias. Information retention, memory, also has primacy and recency bias. Social perception, the halo effect. The halo effect is tendency people have inherently good/bad natures, rather than looking at individual characteristics. The physical attractiveness stereotype believe attractive people have more positive personality traits. Jim, overall impression is in the middle. His accounting bar is very high, sales negative, leadership is moderately good. Now imagine, he has overall good impression, even though he has the same actual skill set. We would perceive that the person is much better at other skills not demonstrated. We may perceive he's actually pretty good at sales, regardless of evidence. Same with leadership and accounting. Almost as if he has a halo on his head, the halo effect. Often happens with celebrities and greater attractiveness. Now imagine someone who we think is overall very poor. Even if baseline skills are same, we perceive them to all be lower. The reverse halo effect can carry over into how we see other attributes about the person. Social perception, the just world hypothesis. You got what you deserve. The just world hypothesis, noble actions performed by an individual, while evil acts are always punished, suggests there is some kind of special force, cosmic justice at play. Reason people think in this way because it helps individuals rationalize their good or misfortune. If I go to school, I will be rewarded in life. However, world doesn't always work this way, and using this hypothesis, we may blame people in poverty for being poor. When the just world hypothesis is threatened, we can use these rational techniques. 1. Accept reality. 2. Prevent or correct injustice with petition or changes to legal system. Irrational techniques can also be used. 1. Denial of the situation. 2. Reinterpreting the events, the outcome, the cause, and the character of the victim. How do we explain the behavior of other people? Attribution theory, explaining other people's behavior based on internal versus external causes. JWH overemphasizes the internal factors rather than external, fundamental attribution error. Ethnocentrism and cultural relativism, in-group and out-group. Judging someone else's culture from the position of your own culture, ethnocentrism. Viewing our own culture to be superior to that of others can lead to cultural bias and prejudice. Or you can judge and understand their culture from within their culture, cultural relativism. No absolute right or wrong, but we have different cultures who are themselves valid. Can falter if someone uses it to conduct activities that violate rights of humans, no matter what culture they're from. People within groups share psychological connection between peers, related to culture/spirituality. In group, the one we are connected with. Stronger interactions than with those in the out-group, and more influential as well. Out-group we're not associated with. Group favoritism, we favor people in our own group, but those in out-group are neutral, we don't give them favors we do to our in-group. Out-group derogation, we are super friendly to our in-group, but not friendly to out-group, we discriminate. Happens if we feel that the out-group is threatening to the in-group's success. Group polarization, group makes decisions that are more extreme than any individual member in the group would want. This can turbocharge the group's viewpoints.